Hello, welcome back to the channel. I want to walk you through the new Playbasis AI Agent Workspace. As you can see from the screen here, you're looking at a dashboard with many different KPI cards. The idea here is to be able to, at a glance, look at all of the key metrics, all of the KPIs that we want to track, all of the figures that we are monitoring. And this could be across the whole business, from all of the online specific stuff, like let's say website traffic, number of followers on our social media, those kinds of things. It could also be sort of market analysis. You might want to track what some of the other companies in your space are doing in your industry or in your sector, so that you can position and be competitive with your pricing and with your offerings. It could be things like patient satisfaction or their net promoter score, for example. So across a whole different set of metrics, you want to be able to bring this all together and at a glance be able to monitor your overall business health and figure out which of these performance metrics are driving the results you want to see in your business. One thing that I remember from being the CEO of Playbasis for so many years was at least 20 to 30% of my time as the CEO and founder was spent just updating our website blog and posting to our official social media channels, writing newsletters, emails to our subscriber lists, checking things like our Google Analytics to find where are we getting our best inbound leads, how are we doing on search engine optimization. So across all these different metrics, all these different data sources, pulling them together and trying to get a sense of where we're going as a business. Where can we be optimizing? Where can we be, moving up the rankings, for example? Where can we be converting better? All these different things. And so, a lot of times, some companies want to assign people to be dedicated to managing certain aspects of all those different pieces of work. So you might have, for example, your social media team might be within your marketing function, for example, and you might have people dedicated to producing those social media contents. You might have communications department for helping to define your brand voice, and you might have customer success teams tracking your service levels, customer satisfaction, and those sorts of things. And that's great if you're an at-scale company and you have those resources to do that. But I think for many people who are just getting started, they lack all of these resources. They don't actually have the internal team to be able to dedicate towards monitoring these and tracking and managing and measuring these different key metrics. So as a founder, as a solo entrepreneur, wouldn't it be great if you could have a whole virtual back office team of AI agents who can sort of, in place of those human resources that you don't actually have at the moment, wouldn't it be great if they could help start the flywheel, if they could start to help build momentum for the business? If they could start producing that long tail of content that is going to help, surface your results and improve your authority, so to speak, across certain key Google search terms, to start building out maybe your subscriber list or your follower count across different social media accounts as you're driving towards eventually launching. Once you have launched your product, wouldn't it be great if you could kind of have an agent help you to manage your e-commerce store? So, going beyond just listing the products for sale, but also refreshing the copy for those SKUs, tweaking the selling price, maybe adding imagery for those products, because the image can go very far to helping to sell that product to a potential customer. So what the new Playbasis AI Agent Workspace is designed to do is to help you as a business owner, small business owner, or even a large business, get more leverage by picking up all of those pieces of work that were very important but may feel scattered, to help you bring various data silos together to connect across a bunch of different third-party providers and platforms, and put it all together in a stateful runtime where the agents can then operate and share work and collaborate across the board, all on the same page, so that dozens of agents can effectively organize and get work done for you on your behalf. So in the demo that I'm sharing here today, this is a publicly available URL, and you'll be able to click through and see what a full setup and operating workspace would look like for your business. In this case, because healthcare has been very near and dear to my heart, very fortunate and happy that our baby Nongpo has been born. He's doing great. He's now just crossed his 1-month birthday. So healthcare has obviously been top of mind for me. And so I decided to build out this demo as PB Healthcare Group, a hypothetical healthcare and wellness group based in Bangkok. And let's say they are looking to start operations and they want to be AI first. So they would like to have AI agents augmenting their human staff and making sure that each customer is getting the care and treatment in a very hyper-personalized way by leveraging the power of these AI agents. And now with the latest LLM models, like for example GPT 5.4, now there's 5.5, we're now crossing the threshold whereby LLMs are now going to become highly capable agentic systems. And so beyond just answering or question and answer chatbots, agents are now going to be able to have schedules, have to-do lists, track what they're doing, create work, update the rest of the team, update you, essentially work as if they are a full-time member of the team. And they can be put on schedules and they can operate pretty much autonomously on your behalf. Now, the other thing that Playbasis does is we're grounded on all of the work that we've been doing up until this point with regards to the AI, with regards to the AI agents, in the sense that just as the same approach that we've taken in the past towards building bank-grade sort of loyalty reward systems and points banks, let's take that a step further. Let's go beyond only managing points for customers, and now let's manage all of the agents as if they have a full identity. So we want to be able to know who they are. We want to be able to track of what they're doing, what teams they're a part of, what their strengths are, how they work within teams of a few to dozens of agents, what their permissions levels are. So for example, we call this word governance, and essentially what governance means in terms of the AI agents is we're not letting them go off and do anything they want. What we're doing is we're putting guardrails around them and these sort of approval systems so that we can say, you can go ahead and go up to this point, at which point check in with me as the owner or as the admin to give you that approval to go ahead and take that next step. And that next step could be pushing publish on a post, creating an image or a video, which would consume more tokens and cost a little bit more, reassigning team members, adding people, recruiting members to certain teams, and so forth. So we're gonna want to have this sense of governance around our virtual team members, and all that really means is basically just kind of adding a rules-based system to a probabilistic, non-deterministic LLM reasoning model. So in some sense, we're kind of coming full circle in the sense that the original Playbasis was very much a rules-based system. They were if-then statements with conditions, and you could run the rules and the system would do the calculations and return the results, update the system of record, update the source of truth. If there was any lag, we would have reconciliation periods where we would check in with the client on the other side, look to see what their ledger says, make sure that maps over to what we've been tracking. If any discrepancies, allow the customer to resolve that. In an agent world, we do want them to act autonomously. We do want them to have a sense of agency. We do want them to be able to be creative and come up with things. We don't want to pre-script them and have them be too confined into very specific, only do this, because then we're losing out on their full potential. But if we can say, like, every day or every week, we want our agent in charge of creating visuals to prepare a visual asset pack. And that would mean things like maybe reading through some of our KPIs, reading the calendar, and then reason through that. So if we're looking to maybe boost a certain KPI, let's say it's our Google Places review score on Google Maps. And what can we do in terms of adding content or context to that listing that could help us boost that KPI? If we want to sell a certain menu item, and when we're looking to see what is our revenue per customer, and we want to increase that, we might think of adding a new add-on menu to our food offerings that could help boost the average order value of each of the customers. So by having this context, we're not just asking the agent to come up with any random visual. We're actually asking the agent to, based on all the context and where we want to go as a business and what our goals and objectives are, what is the most high impact visual that we could create today that would help drive our business forward. And so using a combination of reasoning plus governance, and we call these thinking traces or tool traces, whereby we can actually go back and see what the user, what if the agent was thinking through, how it processed, what is the chain of thought or reasoning to get to that output. And what this allows us to do is create much more rich data in an AI first world, whereby not only are we creating data in our system of record about the agents, but we're also creating lots of data about what the agents are doing, the telemetry, the observability, and how they're arriving at certain either successful outputs or decisions. Artifacts, we call these artifacts, they may be things like files or something that they can durably produce, like a PDF file, an image, a video, a document. These are what we call artifacts. Sometimes what we want the agent to do is simply to make a judgment. So we want them to help us decide, should we hold the line on our pricing? Should we adjust? Should we adapt to what the competitive pressures are doing? Do we need to make a decision based on our stock and inventory levels? Even those decisions are valuable, right? In addition to just creating files, creating documents, creating images, the other valuable thing that agents can do is help us to make decisions and take decisions. It could be things like adjusting a parameter. So maybe in our bidding strategy for our Google AdWords, we're seeing that we could actually get better economics if we bid on some of these other terms that could drive us some traffic at a lower rate, rather than competing for a few other high value keywords or expensive keywords because they've been getting bid up so much. So this is another sort of institutional knowledge that businesses, as they become AI first, are going to want to be able to capture. And then so when you get to the point where you're creating things that are very high quality, then you as the user are going to want to be able to basically provide human feedback to the agents to say, this was an excellent image, we really like this, or in this image, let's make these changes, or whatever your feedback may be. It then gets internalized by the system, so on the next run, it can take into consideration those feedbacks. So what you're doing is you're kind of fine-tuning it as you go, using your own expert opinion and perspective, and providing those signals, those feedback signals, back to the agent system. And the governance also means that for things that are going to be, that would change something substantially or enough, that you may want to be the one to actually approve that, or to say when something goes live, for example, versus once the agent has been doing a certain task or scheduled task over a long enough period of time, or to the point where you feel confident in their results, those agents are actually going to be able to earn what we call, kind of going back to our Playbasis roots, experience points. So here I'm actually going to show you Maya Chen here. This is one of the main agents in that group of 50 because Maya Chen is the coordination agent. So she's the one that's actually, to anthropomorphize her, and it turns out it's helpful to actually name them. So when the AI models are trying to coordinate across lots of different agents, if you just gave them, non-human readable IDs, it would still work, but it's not as good as if you actually named them and gave them some biography or some, about this agent kind of page, right? Give them some tools. So for Maya, she's going to be the one who you're going to be interfacing with, you're going to be chatting with through a chat interface. And by speaking with her, she can coordinate with all the other agents in the team, and that's her primary role. Her primary role is to essentially be the chief of staff or the executive assistant, the executive coordinator who works across all of the teams and all of the agents to help get you what you're looking for, what you want, whether that could be, I want to do a research on where I should potentially be opening my next branch of my bank, or I want to create some images for employee training manuals for a logistics firm, whatever the use case, industry, sector might be. She can go off and fan out those requests to different agents because there's more than 50 in the whole directory, and they all have their own sort of strengths and specializations. So here you can see she's actually earning this XP, all of her deliverables and activities being tracked. We haven't assigned her any awards yet or performance targets, but over time the goal is to be able to have the experience points system as another layer of feedback for the agents to reason through. So to kind of give them some sort of guidance in terms of, here are things that worked in the past. These were, fruitful. These bared great results. These are potential golden paths for you, or golden loops to reference on your next task if it falls outside of this initial distribution. If it's within this distribution, here are some optimized pathways to just go ahead and do. You can think of it almost like opening moves to playing chess. The further you go into the game, the more the search space changes. But in the very beginning, there are some definite go-to strong moves that you definitely want to do. And then because the AI models are all about predicting the next tokens, if you can sort of set them up on that path initially, you're going to have a higher probability to get something that you really like. So this is how the agent works and who's part of that agent team and what tools the agent has. So the agent here can create documents, can do web search. You can see they have these access to tools, and each tool has different set of token costs. And we have a robust telemetry reconciliation system here to help you as the user understand how many tokens your entire team are using on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. So if you were to have 50 agents all running every day or every week and producing results, and again, the results could be things like a brief. So maybe you're doing a marketing brief, or you want to create some images and you need a brief, sort of like a prompt and constraints and those sorts of things. And then that could lead to an image like this. So as we recall, we are in the PB healthcare demo, which is a new modern healthcare system, let's say hypothetically here in Bangkok, Thailand, and we want to create some images to go along with our blogs, our social media posts, maybe for some internal communications. We might have monitors, welcome monitors set up across the hospital where we display images, graphic designs, and so forth. And then our agents can essentially be helping us build a repository for us to save all of these images in sort of a gallery and either post them or just have them available to us continuously. So maybe we want to have a blog post about our telehealth solutions, right? So what would that look like? Maybe we want that to be a post on social media. And so here we can connect different channels, threads, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we can see here we have this sort of change request or change receipt and the image for that telehealth. The agents can produce, like I said, images. They can also produce videos. That will be something that will be that will be coming soon, very soon. Built to integrate visuals. You can essentially from the images, you can then go the next step and then turn them into short video clips, whereby it could be as simple as adding a parallax, or maybe just making the image look like a still shot, but maybe their lights are twinkling in the background. You can see some shadows casting, light casting, light rays casting, shadows dancing around a little bit. Maybe the screen is animated. Those kinds of things you can do with videos. So you can imagine that you're going to be working in a workspace like this, whereby you set your direction, you give the context of what kind of business you're in, and then the agents are then going to go off and produce work for you. If you can connect them to your social media, to maybe an external CRM, maybe you want to have, maybe you want to pop up a special app just to capture customer feedback. So we're going to do a patient voice survey. And with vibe coding, maybe we can just create that, or maybe that's an app that Playbasis has as a new widget or a new app that you can then use. And so then what we'll be able to do is take the transcript from the patients and then summarize that, capture that, so that we can quickly do patient surveys and get understand what their net promoter score is, their complaints, service recovery, post-discharge survey trends, those kinds of things. So you can connect up all these data sources. That's what makes the workspace unique. Is it's this sort of, real time. It's this sort of runtime with the shared states, whereby you have all of these agents which have different capabilities and can work in parallel, can all contribute towards what you're driving towards as a business. So if you're trying to capture more of the share of voice, if you want to think of ways, how can we utilize our bed occupancy, right? All of these things in the past were very domain specific, very verticalized point solutions. But the power of these general purpose sort of artificial general intelligent models, combined with these teams of agents that can fan out and work together, in concert, means that you can now tackle 360 degrees of your business view, right? You can codify everything that the agents are doing into a calendar view, for example. So whether the agent has done work or is planning to do work, either scheduled in advance or ad hoc, everything should be written down in this sort of timeline. And each of the agents could have, you might think of them as swim lanes, or a density heat map, whereby you can see where the intensity of the work or the activities that are happening for the business. And these can be scheduled according to different ways of working. So in one sense, you may say, like, we want this to work as a weekend process, so that on Mondays, when our full team arrives to the office, they'll be presented with already a week's worth of work sort of pre-filled out, that helps get them started much faster. If you're working in a business that is essentially 24/7, or you're working across multiple time zones, this also becomes very, very helpful, because you can have the agents working always on. You can also have them scale up, scale down based on seasonality effects, or how your customers interact with your business. You could also do it based on off-peak things. So in terms of all the math, or all of the sort of science around scheduling, that now becomes possible using these latest AI models. In terms of everything around complex organizations and organizational graphs and coordination, right? We can now, using these latest models, we can now architect coordination systems so that it becomes possible most effectively to have 50 or dozens of agents working together in concert. It doesn't have to be something that is overwhelming to manage. Now with these latest AI models, this is absolutely possible, and in fact, the best way to get the leverage from these AI tools. It's not going to be sitting there and prompting it back and forth manually with you in front of the keyboard all the time. A lot of times what you're going to want to do is be able to give a high-level overview of what we are looking to sort of achieve as an organization. These are the things that we as a group are prioritizing, right? We want to understand, what our North Star is, or what good looks like, what great looks like, so that we can benchmark against where we are today and then where we want to be, and then how that, how we stack rank relative to other players in this industry or our competition, or where we used to be as an organization, so that we can measurably we can measure our improvements, and we can manage our our direction towards becoming that excellent quality of service, center of excellence as an organization. I think of a very interesting kind of metaphor to think about agents is you can think of these as like virtual couriers, or you could think of them as Grab delivery, couriers or Uber drivers, in the sense that various agent tasks, depending on what the nature of that task is, it's going to consume compute time, wall clock time, for example. It's just going to take some time to generate that image. It might take a few minutes, right? And then if you want to sort of chain that up to say, let's link this image to then create a video, to then post that onto the social network, and then add a caption to that, for example. That these steps in that workflow are each going to take time, and maybe a fun way to visualize that, or just to start thinking about it, to wrap our heads around it, is sort of to think of them as these agents who are traveling around the city making deliveries, right? They may be gathering data, they may be delivering something to you as the customer, for example. They may be going off to get some research, and so to the extent you can think of these as kind of virtual delivery drivers or food couriers, I think that could help to understand that sometimes it's actually best to pre-plan some of these tasks, especially when you're working in volume and at scale, so that you give yourself enough buffer time, so that everything that is dependent upon, let's say, agent ABC is there, so that agent XYZ can then take it, pass the baton, and then take it to the next step, so that ultimately we push it past the finish line and get it delivered to the customer. So one way to think about that are as agents, or as delivery workers, drivers, gig workers traveling around the city, doing delivery routes, for example. And the Playbasis AI Workspace has that as one of your optional visualizations. Other ways to think of it is just as a list of work items that are being carried out and executed and completed. And you can see that they have the tool trace here, whereby we start with their signal research, we reason about it, then we come up with sort of a decision or a state change or something that we want to deliver in the form of a document, a report, those sorts of things. So that is pretty much it for the workspace. In the agent directory, there is one more thing that I think we'll get to in a later video, but in addition to the workspace and to the direct tool that the agents all have access to, it turns out that if you can give the agents a dedicated app that they can use, you can get even better results. So right now, a lot of the agents can sort of basically one-shot something. So you can say, like, give me the HTML code to make a nicely designed email newsletter. I want to be able to copy and paste this into email and publish it as a well-formatted email newsletter, and the agents can pretty much one-shot that. They can output you that block of code that you can then take and run with. They can also create images and videos, but sometimes you want to iterate on those. You may want to combine multiple clips together, for example, and then stitch two of them to create one image, or one video, I should say. You may want to even schedule social media posts to different channels with different posting schedules. You may even want to create images with different layers. So you may want to generate a few different layers and then stitch them together. So if you can have an AI agent ready tool, like your own image studio or video studio or a web builder, social studio or content studio, this can actually be a a huge productivity boost, because now instead of having to link out to other apps that you might normally want to use, here you have built an app that's already natively integrated with how you're working, and that the agent fundamentally knows how to use and can create great outputs for you using the apps that you as the human can use and the agents can use. And there's going to be more coming. So there's, on the roadmap is Playmaker, which I've been working on and off for months on. And I think now that the models are starting to get to the point where we can start creating really cool, fun, playable, interactive experiences. You can also do things that are like simulations or 3D workshops. So you're starting to see a lot of people do some computer-aided drafting. Maybe they want to visualize something before they do a 3D print of it, or they want to visualize something that they're going to build in the real world. Like, let's say it's a fountain or something, and they want to be able to rotate around that. You could do that now using these AI tools. You can just prompt to objects. You can create music, as some of you guys who've been on my channel have seen some of the music that I've done. You can create slides. You can create idea boards. Going back to the voice input, whereby, let's say you just have a meeting and you want to have a 20-minute meeting with someone, and everyone can just share what they thought. A lot of times you have to do these minutes of meetings, and then you try to codify what was discussed. And even this is like such a huge level up if you're not doing this, because sometimes a lot of people have meetings, but nothing concrete is taken away from that, or there's nothing actionable. So sort of like, what did we even discuss in that meeting? I remember we had the meeting, but I don't even remember what was the point of the meeting. What did we talk about? The agenda, those kinds of things. Here, now meetings become much more productive, because as you're having the meeting, ideas, thoughts, trends, themes start to cluster and form, and you can start almost like begin the beginnings of creating a product or creating a project just based on having the collaborative meeting. So I think this can kind of take the next step from taking those notes that you might have from just the raw transcription, and then looking for those sort of like salient features and do other research in parallel while you're talking about certain topics to pull that information, those sorts of things. And then I think the other step will be probably voice for the agents as well. So there's way more here than I have time to demo. I'm just going to leave it here, but to give you a sense of what else that we haven't demoed yet, in addition to these apps, is there's also a full simulation mode, whereby you can, if you don't have a full workspace or a full business to operate using this tool, you can actually assume the role of the CEO of a predefined business and run it through as a simulation. And I think where I'm going to go with that is I'm actually going to try to turn it into almost like a mini series in a sense. I think there'll be a way to create summary videos, or to create sort of like to play back everything that happened during that day or in that week in a like interesting, somewhat dramatic, but still like positive way, so that you could actually just like do a 30-second or 1-minute recap of like what all happened, what were the challenges, and how did we resolve those, and sort of like what's the story, what's the narrative arc of the business and where we're going. I think that's really, really interesting. I'll have to set up another video to talk about that. But this demo is live. It's limited in the sense that, show me the map, let's say, for example, you can chat, do some basic chat with Mai here, but she doesn't have full approval to make changes to this right now. So if you just wanted to chat around and see how that works, you could do that in a public demo. But I would recommend definitely creating your own profile, which I have here. You can see that I'm logged in using Line. And then you could start creating your own workspace for whatever business use case that you wanted to. And then you could use all the agents. Here's Rompo, it's here. This one is one of my favorite agents. Just fun. It makes doing work like much more fun, like more exciting, something that you want to do. And I think anything that helps you become a better CEO, small business owner, leader, I think that's going to be huge in the age of AI. I think all of us are going to become kind of like managers of agent teams. And instead of us being the one doing all the mouse clicking and keying in on the keyboard and tapping here and copying and pasting, what we're going to do is increasingly we're just going to delegate that to an agent who's going to be way faster and better than us. And I think they'll be like naturally better than us, or at least like initially just like way more capable. And then over time, as they learn and get trained, they'll improve. And that will be done in concert and parallel with the humans. So we're going to be able to help refine them and get them to really take that next step from just the raw capability to the really refined and polished outcomes and outputs that we're looking for. So thanks a lot for coming and seeing this video. Super excited that this is in a place now where I feel like we can really iterate on this and we can really take this to the next level. I'd be thrilled to continue investing on this as much as I can with the available token budget that I still have to both add a few more millions lines of code to this particular project, as well as allow users to interact with this and do it in a way whereby we can absorb the token cost due to our sponsorship. That may not last forever, clearly, but I think we're at a place now where we can get a good sense of if one were to, operate one of these workspaces and have the 50 or so agents doing automated tasks on a daily basis for, let's say, a full month, for example. What is the kind of token cost for something like that? And then, like, how many tokens would that cost us? And then what would that translate into dollars using sort of the latest model pricing right now? And increasingly, I'm getting to the point where I feel very confident that you could get started for a few dollars, depending on how many agents you have going, and depending on how much work you want to give them, you could end up spending a few $100s per month across all the agents, producing durable artifacts, doing good research for you, updating stuff in your system of record, or your system of engagement, or your system of reasoning, or your trace database, for example. All of these sorts of things, just in tokens. And then in terms of the compute to create this workspace, to have a server where the runtime can be on and where you can produce the artifacts in parallel, scheduled or over the internet, and be able to log in from anywhere and access your workspace. You would need a cloud server or service to have all this with the database and so forth. But it's turning out to look very affordable, almost like a no-brainer. So I think we're going to get to the point where businesses of all sizes are going to want to be able to have something like Playbasis AI Agent Workspace, where they can work with an agent to define the things that they want to measure, define the place, take where are they trying to go, what is the landscape, and what are the trends, what's resonating, what can we measure, what can we manage, and then using all of this as my context, every decision that the agents are making now has this baked in, along with the historical trends and where we're coming from, so that we can get a sense of trajectory, we can get a sense of momentum, there's a narrative arc, and we're all moving towards something, moving towards this better place, or getting our business in a healthier way. I think this is very, very exciting, and it's going to be very affordable. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to open source this, or definitely want to try to commercialize it so that we can take care of the people who are depending on us. But I think overall, I think this is a glimpse of the future of what AI agentic software is all about. This is much more of a business-minded view, more of a small business or startup or something I wish I would have had as a startup of a Series A, as a CEO of a Series A startup. This is the kind of tool that, as I'm building, I'm really thinking about, like, gosh, this would have been amazing to have during my time as CEO of the Series A startup, right? Being able to just, aggregate and pull all this data from these different sources, bring it all into one place, look through it, reason through it, figure out, like, what, if given limited resources, what should we focus on? What things cost money? What things are just taking effort and we should just produce more content, right? Like, all of those sorts of things, if I could have just had that, I think the business would have done even better. And I believe that any business that now has something like this Playbasis AI workspace is going to massively improve their productive output, maybe increase their customer experience to a massive level. I think it's going to help the employees of that. If the business has employees, it's going to help them tremendously. If you're a solo entrepreneur, you're basically you work for yourself, then having agents prepare you a full gallery of images, of blog posts, set up a whole schedule of content you could create, and put that all in draft mode for you to approve every week. That's just going to save you. It's going to free you up to focus on way more high leverage, high value activities, whether that's taking that extra time to go and see that customer and try to close the deal, help onboard them, or just more time for your family, for your friends. I think having these agents is going to be a huge boost and a major help, and very excited about where this is going. Thank you guys very much for taking the time to listen to this video and see what I've been working on here, and I hope you sign up soon. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye-bye.